Well, hi once again. Welcome to the Centre for Missional Leadership, and it's a great pleasure to welcome today Mark Greene. Mark Greene, who's the director of LICC, the London Institute of Contemporary Christianity. Mark, thanks for coming. Good to have you here.
Thanks very much indeed.
And you've just been lecturing to our students for 3 hours, and so it's been good to have you here and great to have your input. Now, the rules of the game, I think I've explained to you. We're going to set the alarm clock here so we can't miss it, just for 5 minutes. And we've got 5 minutes exactly for me to fire any question at you, unprepared, and to get your answers. So is that good?
That's possibly good.
Great. We'll see how it goes. 5 minutes with. Mark, some people say that you have a passing resemblance to Rowan Atkinson. Are you offended by that?
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted to have a passing resemblance to Rowan Atkinson. I always wanted to be James Bond. I wanted to be Sean Connery. But, you know, these people like Rowan Atkinson.
They do.
They like Rowan Atkinson, so there's something about being like Mr. Bean that isn't necessarily negative.
So today we've got Rowan Atkinson interviewed by Ricky Gervais. Let's do a serious question, which is, you've been thinking a little bit, I gather, about workplace ministry and seeing ourselves as missionaries in the workplace. Do you think that's an optional extra for the church, or is it essential, and why?
Well, I don't think it's an optional extra. I do think it's essential. What I actually think is that a Christian, a son or daughter of the King Universe, is always a missionary in every place, in any place, in the sense that we always carry the Spirit, we always carry the opportunity to bless people, to love, to bring love into any context. So it doesn't really matter where we are. And I suppose why it is particularly essential is because if a Christian doesn't think that they are a missionary where they spend 40% of their waking life and probably have more contact with non-Christians and have more opportunity to perhaps shape the overall culture, if we do not think we have any kind of calling to be missional there, then actually we are consigning most of society, we're giving it over to pretty much anybody else who wants to think anything. So the reality of the situation in the church today, overall globally, is that we have a mission paradigm which essentially is like this: to recruit the people of God to give up some of their leisure time to join the missionary initiatives of church-paid workers. So we have a leisure time paradigm. And what that means is that 95% of our waking life, in other words, the time that we don't spend in cell or in pub evangelism or in helping in the local neighbourhood, all of which are fantastic things to do, and which local churches have been doing, I think, better and better, and let's do it. But that's only 5% of my waking life. The average person can't give more than about maybe 10 hours to those kinds of activities in a week. But they're going to give 30, 40, 50 in a workplace, or if they're a student or in a school. So if we don't get this right, what it means is that all the people who are not church paid workers, in other words, 98% of the church will not be missionally conscious for 95% of their waking life. Or to put it another way, wouldn't it be a great result for Satan if he could actually ensure that 98% of God's people were not thinking missionally for 95% of the time and not operating in that way?
Absolutely. So it's something that's really important, it's not an option extra, it's absolutely essential. And that's obviously one of the reasons we get you in to speak. You're a pioneer of some of this way of thinking, this paradigm shifts, some people might want to call it, and indeed you've been an inspiration partly to the setting up of CML and our thinking. How much do you think there has been that paradigm shift in the church? Obviously it is changing, isn't it? But how much has there been a shift? And how much further do we have to go before this thinking that I accept fully, needs to fully permeate the church in a way that we want?
Well, I think first of all, I agree. You can see very clear markers along the way that some things have changed. So if you go to a place like this would be a marker. It's got a different kind of way of approaching mission. If you go to most of the big conferences, whether the Easter conferences, the summer conferences, both in England and in Scotland and indeed in Northern Ireland, they'd all have stuff on work and all that kind of stuff. But my issue really is that the work can easily become what you might call a church-approved special interest. Because my heart is not just that some people suddenly realise, oh, my workplace is a fantastic place to do ministry and God can use me there in all kind of variety of ways. My heart is to see a church community that is helping one another to be missional wherever those people are at. And that is a different idea. The idea that we are making disciples who are missional in all of life, whether that means that when they go to the supermarket, that's my supermarket. You know, one person I know, or we know rather, is that's their supermarket, it's Costco. And those are the people that she meets, and she's praying for those people. Well, that's her mission field. So that it's a complete shift in how we do church overall. And I don't think we've got there yet.
Sure. Okay, another question in terms of where the church fits in. One of the things that some people say is that our missiology has to reform our ecclesiology. So in other words, the way we do church is a massive handicap to this paradigm shift happening, with the whole thing of the secular sacred divide and the priesthood that we still talk about, obviously, in certain traditions. How much do you think the church needs to change to reflect this new shift?
Well, I think, well, what I'd say is I think it clearly does need to change. And I suppose what's the big shift is what you might call the pastoral contract. What is the nature of the relationship between pastor and people? What do we actually expect our pastors or our leadership teams to do and to be discipling us in? And on the whole, what we have is a pastoral care contract. So my contract with a pastor is that you're going to look after me. That's actually very important. You're going to help me through difficulties in life or through good times and reorient me through big decisions and so on. You're going to care for me. But it's not a huge part of the pastoral contract usually that you're going to disciple me and you're going to equip me.
Yeah.
And so what you're shifting to a double axis, and God is clearly at one level both caring for us all of the time, but wanting us to be as fruitful and to be discipled all the time. So I think there's a different way in which pastors will have to think about the people, and also how people will have to think about what they want from the leaders and what they want from one another, because this is a community discipling one another, not just one woman, one man, or three women, or three men, or if you've got lots of money, 20 women, doing all that and doing that. So it's a big shift.
Great, thank you. The alarm's just gone off, so that's the end. Much as we'd like to continue the conversation, Mark Greene, thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you very much.